Colbyjack.net is proud to present From the Flames by Trisha M. Wilson. The people of the fire, the Blesa, led by their queens, have ruled the island of Alfeyju and oppressed the Driva, the people of the ice, for more than 16 generations. With the Drivian King in hiding and little hope on the horizon, the Driva looked to one person to save them from the vile Blesa, the Diviana. According to legend, the divinely gifted Diviana will one day overthrow the Blesa and restore the Drivian King to his rightful throne. But with the search having lasted for more than 400 years, will the Diviana ever come to light? Willow is the slave of the Raskpil family. But at the age of 4, 20 years have passed since her life irrevocably changed. Her existence is no worse than any other slave, but within, Willow wonders if there isn't something more she should be doing with her life other than serving the ungrateful. Ordered to travel with her master's family to Sondertoft, so her master's adult children can take part in an ancient rite of passage, Willow is shocked when she learns that she too must participate. Will she fail, as all before her have? Will she rise to the challenge and become stronger after passing through the flames? From the Flames, Episode 2. Willow wrestled the heavy trunk onto the dock, trying hard to avoid bumping into anyone. She took a few steps down the bustling pier, intent on finding the inn Master Bassie had made reservations at, when she heard Mistress Brigida. "Follow us, Willow! You might be needed!" Leading the family, Master Bassie walked along the dock and up a ramp. On the landing, there was an older woman sitting at a battered table. On one side of the table was a stack of parchment held down by a paperweight depicting a sword stuck in a stone. On the other side there was a brand-new quill sitting in an inkwell. When he was standing right before the woman, Master Bassie asked, "Is this where we register?" "Yes," the woman said. Pulling her quill, ink, and parchment nearer, she said, "Who is to be signed up?" Before he could answer, however, Mistress Brigida asked, "Do slaves count?" Forgetting herself, Willow opened her mouth to ask what Mistress Brigida was talking about. Before she could say anything, the woman spoke. "Yes, the law states that every person who has turned 24 during the past year, be they free person or slave, man or woman, must sign up and be given the opportunity to find the Divinia. The gods will know if all have not been given the opportunity." "Then there are 3 to sign up," Mistress Brigida said, waving toward Willow and the twins. "Names?" Raskpil, Naya Raskpil, and Willow Niviarsiak. "And all turned 24 after last year's festival?" "Yes," Master Bassie said. "Very good." The woman wrote their names on the bottom of a list, and then pulled 3 other parchments toward her. Not even bothering to glance at what was written, she pushed them across the table and said, "Each entrant must sign this." "What is it?" Master Bassie asked as Ricky moved to sign. "A cursed document swearing that the signer is of Drivian birth and is of legal age." "I don't remember signing anything like this when I took part," Mistress Brigida commented as Naya next went to sign. "It is fairly new. A few years back, some spies tried to infiltrate the festivities. This is an extra security measure we've implemented. We found that most spies are not willing to sign." "What happens to them if they do?" Master Bassie asked as Willow went to sign the document. Willow bent over the document and began reading what she was signing. She had learned how to read in the little schooling she was permitted to have. Master Bassie insisted that everyone within his household know how to read and write, as to never be fooled by unscrupulous tradesmen. "They will—" Mistress Brigida slapped Willow on the back of the head. "What are you doing? Sign the parchment!" "But I wanted to—" "Sign now!" she ordered, her eyes threatening Willow with unuttered threats.
"They will be infected with hideous boils on every part of their body, and be killed in a violent and most unpleasant way,"
the woman said, not even blinking at the exchange between Willow and her mistress. Taking the parchments back, she checked to make sure they were signed before saying,
"These 3 will all need to be present for the anointing ceremony in the center of town by the time the sun begins to set and its light touches the highest point on the Hall of Justice. The Hall of Justice is in the center of town and has a large plaque of 2 swords crossed with a crown encircling them. You can't miss it. Be aware that the anointing cannot start until all are present. So please be on time."
"We will be. Can you tell us how to get to the Dormod Inn?" Master Bassi asked.
"Up the hill. Take a left at Periander's. It's the place with all the swords in the window. The inn should be the 5th building on your right."
"Thank you," Mistress Brigida said. Walking side by side with Master Bassi, Mistress Brigida strode confidently away from the pier and into town. The farther they went, the more people they encountered, making walking together as a group difficult, but somehow the 4 of them made their way without incident. Willow, however, was left to trail behind them. The heaviness of the trunk made it impossible for her to move more than a handful of steps without bumping into someone. It felt as if she was apologizing after every step she took. As they made their way, Willow wondered what she'd been signed up for. She had known that the twins were going to be participating in something, but she'd been too busy to pay their ramblings much attention. When you added to the mix the fact that she wasn't allowed in town much, it wasn't surprising that she'd never heard any adults, even those who were a few years older than herself, even mention the Diviana. Vowing to get answers once they'd made it to the inn, Willow followed along the best she could. It was hard to follow, however, when there was a new wonder to see every step of the way. Every inch of Sondertoft was moving and pulsing with life. Street performers were playing their instruments and acting out ancient tales to the delight of their captive audience, which ranged from the newly walking to the barely walking. Food stalls produced wonderful smells, making Willow's mouth water. Vendors sold their wares and haggled with buyers over prices of goods she hadn't even known existed. As she passed a stall selling leather goods, the smell of freshly worked leather wafted toward Willow, reminding her of a time long ago, a better time she didn't allow herself to think about often. Swallowing hard on the sudden lump in her throat, Willow turned her focus to the present and left the past where it belonged. The more they walked, the more wonder Willow felt. She had never seen, heard, or smelled so much in all of her life, and looking at the expression on the twins' faces, they felt the same way. They too had been kept on a tight leash their whole lives, though not as tight as Willow's. This was the first time any of them had been in such a large town or so far from home. The walk to the inn was quicker than Willow would have liked. Even though she was anxious to find out what was going on later, she would have enjoyed exploring all the different booths. Even knowing she didn't have any money and couldn't buy anything, just watching the different street performers would have been enough for her. The Dormod Inn was built of the same weathered gray stone as its neighbors, a contrast to the newer red brick used to construct the homes and businesses they'd passed. The foursome entered the inn via the street, not waiting for Willow to catch up to them. Before she could open the door to the inn to follow them, however, a group of drunken men poured out. "Get out of the way," one of them said in a slurred voice. "Yeah," another one said. "Watch where you're going, slave." They bumped and knocked uncaringly and unapologetically into Willow. There wasn't anything she could do except wait for them to pass. When they left, which took a few minutes because of how drunk they were, she made it into the overly crowded main room. She looked around, trying to find her master and mistress, but it was hard with such a large crowd. Then Willow spotted her mistress and the twins standing by the foot of the staircase. They were looking toward the bar where Master Bassi was leaning against the highly lacquered rail, talking to a buxom barmaid. As Willow got closer to the trio, she saw Master Bassi join them. She was too far away to hear what passed between her master and mistress, but she did hear something like, "Room, up the stairs, second, right." The 4 of them went ahead, leaving Willow to follow with only a vague idea of where she was going. Hefting the trunk up the stairs, she was able to see the door slam shut behind them, letting her know where they were staying. Opening the door, she heard a curse, and Ricky spat. "What are you doing?" even as he got out of the door's way. Easing the door open the rest of the way, being careful not to hit anyone else, Willow saw that there were only 2 beds in the room, presumably for her master and mistress and the twins. At the end of the beds, she saw that there was only a little empty floor space for her to put her pallet and the trunk. About the trunk, she'd have been more comfortable, but beggars couldn't be choosers. Mistress Brigida, who was pulling back the sheets on one of the beds to make sure they were clean, gave Willow a disgusted look when the trunk slipped from Willow's grasp as she tried to put it out of the way. "Have care," she said sharply. Naya giggled at her mother's reprimand from the other bed. She always giggled or laughed when Willow was chastised or punished. "Yes, mistress," Willow murmured, continuing to wrestle it into its corner. When it was finally as out of the way as possible in such a cramped room, Willow asked, "What's the Diviana?" "I don't have time to answer your questions," Mistress Brigida said roughly. "I must prepare the twins for tonight. Here," she said, holding out her hand. In her palm were 3 brass pieces. "Take this and get out. Use the coins for your dinner. Do not come back until after tonight's festivities. And don't forget to be at the center of town by the time the sun begins to set. I won't have the whole ceremony delayed because you can't be someplace on time." "Yes, mistress, but—" "Go, and do as your mistress has said," Master Bassie said from the window. "We don't have time to waste on you. We must prepare Naya and Ricky." "Yes, master," Willow said. Leaving the inn, Willow couldn't help feeling hurt at the brush-off she'd received. Just because this search for the Diviana is important, that doesn't mean they couldn't have taken the time to answer my question. Why do Naya and Ricky get all this secret information while I'm cast out and left with more questions than answers? No answers came. As Willow made her way back to the main road, a troupe of street performers dressed in brightly colored clothes, playing recorders, caught her attention. While each played the recorder with tremendous skill, each individual recorder was as different from the next as day was from night. The smallest was barely longer than a handspan, while the longest was taller than most men. Just listening to the beautiful music they created made Willow's anxieties ease. Leaning back against a nearby building, Willow decided that she could put her questions and this Divinia out of her mind and enjoy the festival. For the first time in more years than she could remember, she had free time, and it would be a shame not to do exactly what she wanted. Freedom of any sort was a luxury in her life. This work is released under Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, Share-alike license. Do what you want with it. Remix it, re-record it, transcribe it, share it. Just don't sell it or change the terms of the license. Your creation must be released under an Attribution, Non-Commercial, Share-alike license. Thank you for listening and have a nice day.